Have we lost our humanity? With tensions rising, we're seeing a rise in reactivity. More and more people are speaking down to one another instead of seeing each other, and this is hurting all of us. In this episode, you'll learn what it means to be human, the ways in which we are losing our humanity, the responsibilities that come with being a leader in these times, 6 steps to reclaim our humanity, and one potent tip to support you in having conscious and not reactive conversations. Now, if you have yet to grab a copy of my book, Potent Leadership, be sure to do so. You can grab it on Amazon in all countries. You can also head to potentleadership.com and grab a copy there, or walk into your local bookstore and ask them to order a copy in. Now, whether you are a loyal listener or you're brand new to this podcast, please take a moment to download a few episodes and drop a rating and review on iTunes. Every single download, rating, and review helps get this podcast out to more leaders around the world. Now it is time to talk about what it's going to take for us to reclaim our humanity. Beyond the narrative, underneath the veil of illusion, and deep within your center, therein lies potent truth. Welcome to Potent Truth, where today's leaders, change makers, and light carriers come together to question the narrative, arrive at potent truth, and lead with sovereignty. What is potency? It's who you are beneath the masks, facades, and protective gear. It's the medicine humanity yearns for, cries out for, prays for, and needs. Your potency is what sets you apart, magnetizes your following, and creates movements. Join me, Ruby Fremon, for weekly guidance, channeled messages, and potent conversations that will take you on a journey of self-discovery. I am here to guide you to a place of unraveling the programming that's been keeping us stuck for generations, unlocking potent truth and expressing it through sovereign leadership. It's time for change. It's time for potent truth. Hey, leaders and change makers, welcome to another episode of Potent Truth. And today I really just want to expand on my latest musing that I wrote on Substack. If you're not following my writing on Substack and you appreciate my writing, then check it out, rubyfremon.substack.com. That link and more will be in the show notes. But Substack is really just a space for me to share long form writing, and writing that I may not necessarily share on somewhere like Instagram. So definitely check it out. But I wrote a musing entitled, Have We Lost Our Humanity? And what inspired me to write that was just what I've been experiencing in the online space. If you've been online, which I know most of you have, you've probably felt the tensions rising. You've probably experienced the reactivity getting worse. It's almost like we've completely lost our ability to have conversations with each other. We've lost our ability to see each other as fellow human beings, as our brothers and sisters. And I myself really needed to take a step back. And at the time of recording this episode, like I know this is coming out in October, I recorded this at the end of September. I've been feeling a lot, and it doesn't make wanting to go online feel like something I want to do, because the reactivity has gotten so bad. And I've been observing it on all sides of the equation with what's going on right now. The name calling is happening on both sides. The trauma response, the triggered response, the reactivity is happening on both sides. The shaming is happening on both sides. it's like everyone is just going tit for tat and there's no end in sight. And I don't want to contribute to that. And it led me to the question of, well, have we lost our humanity? And first of all, I want to just define humanity because I think we use that word a lot, but we don't know what it means. So the definition of humanity is compassionate, sympathetic, or generous behavior or disposition, the quality or state of being humane. And the definition of humane is marked by compassion, sympathy, or consideration for humans or animals. I share that with you because it feels like we've lost consideration for each other as fellow human beings. We are all on the same fucking journey. We are all navigating the same shit. It's just our perceptions of what's going on. That's where the difference lies. Our perception of what's going on. And our perceptions are based on our own internal beliefs. We create perception from our beliefs, from our values, from what we know to be true. And as I've said before in other episodes, truth is subjective, right? Truth is seen in the eye of the beholder. It's like we all see something different. We all have our own lenses that we look at the world with. And so in knowing this, I can say, okay, well, I'm going to look at everyone with compassion and with love and seek to understand them because we're all just navigating the same shit. We're just seeing different things. So I can say that because I know that to be true. And I can still get online and feel triggered. So I took a bit of a step back. I didn't go completely offline, but I took a step back, cutting the time that I spend online just to regroup, because I noticed that in myself, I was starting to get triggered more easily. And the reason I started to get triggered more easily in September is because the vaccine injury actually hit really close to home. A member in my family, and I'm not going to share who it is to respect their privacy, but a member of my family who is very, 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 very close to me experienced an injury. And they actually didn't want to get it. They felt pressured and finally caved to the pressure. And then this happened and they ended up in ER and they're still dealing with the repercussions of that decision. And so I was dealing with that. I've also been dealing with some other family stuff that's going on that is really heavy, and all of which has brought my barrier to, it's like we all have these barriers that we're able to maintain to stay composed. And it's like mine just disappeared in September because I was like, fuck this, fuck that. I've got too much going on in my own personal life. And when people were trying to challenge me on some of the things that I was sharing, especially about the injuries, I felt super fucking triggered. And all I want to do is just shake their shoulders and be like, I have someone really close to me who ended up in ER and we're still dealing with the repercussions. We haven't found anyone to really support them. But at the same time, I knew that I would probably be met with, well, hundreds of thousands of people have died. And, it's just the tit for tat game. And I am done with that. I'm so fucking done with the tit for tat game. And everyone is like engaging in this. And I see it. And it's crazy because if you continue to go tit for tat with people who are actually in a space of like cognitive dissonance, you're not going to be met with any sort of intelligent conversation. And if you are in a reactive state, such as myself being in a reactive state, you're going to lose the ability to think critically, to show up with compassion, to have a conscious conversation. And so nobody wins. People are just fighting with each other. And this is why I wrote that article on Substack, Have We Lost Our Humanity? Because it feels like we're losing what it means to be humane. It feels like we're losing what it means to be a human being. We are losing our humanity in the midst of this. And I think that that's the greatest loss that we're experiencing right now, because where do we go from there? Right? Once we lose our humanity, then what? And again, I'm observing this on all sides. Like it's crazy. And yet this is the world that we're living in. And I think that what's important to note is we may not be able to get to that place within ourselves to practice compassion and love for every single person because we are in a triggered state. And I think that that's really important to understand. If you are working through your traumas right now, and I mean like every single person on this planet is working through some level of trauma right now, because what we're seeing right now is a giant traumatic response. Humanity is experiencing a giant traumatic response, which is being projected from our own internal traumas. So if you don't actually deal with those traumas, you're going to project that into our world, which is contributing to our divide, to the hate, to all the shit that we're experiencing. So instead of focusing on spreading the message outwards, which, continue to do that, and make sure you're channeling a lot of that energy inwards and taking responsibility for yourself and who you're being as a leader, as a human being. Take responsibility for how you're showing up, for the type of content that you're sharing. Like, are you actually reading the articles that you are sharing, like retweeting or regranting? Like, are you actually reading the reference articles? Or are you just sharing because someone shared it and you're just assuming it's a good article? Because this happens a lot. Are you actually watching the video in full before you hit share? Are you listening to the podcast in full before you hit share? Are you doubling down on your own research? Or are you just sharing shit because you trust the person who shared it? We need to, as leaders, really take responsibility for what we're sharing, what we're saying, how we're showing up. And we can only do that if we remain grounded in our own energy. And we can only remain grounded when we're not in a reactive state. And we can alleviate the reactivity by working on these traumas that are being triggered by everything that's going on in the world. So right now, the invitation is to focus inwards as the frantic energy continues to amplify. I know that the natural reaction is to get caught up in it. It's almost like it sweeps you up and you find yourself yelling louder, fighting harder, protesting more. But with all the conversations I've been having with so many people, we're exhausted. Like, so many of us are fucking exhausted because we've been going at it for so long. And now it's come to this like weird, this side versus that side. And that is, it's like, it's disheartening to witness, whether you're conscious of that or not. Like, it is disheartening to be part of humanity when humanity is so broken apart. And we are so broken apart because as individuals, we are broken. We are breaking. And now, I never like to say that we are broken individuals, but we are breaking apart. Like, we are literally from the inside, like breaking ourselves apart for this, when we need to focus on bringing ourselves back together, to healing, to understanding ourselves on a deeper level, so that we can come into this world and have these conversations in a very conscious, intentional way. And I know that that sounds easier said than done. This is why I've been just taking more time off of social, because I need to, one, just focus on my family right now. And two, like, focus on myself and what I need to do to feel grounded, which at this point feels like doubling down on my rituals. So there's a lot I wrote about this in the article, which I encourage you to go check out, rubyfremon.substack.com. Just head there and you'll see that musing. I'm calling them musings because article just sounds really dry, and musings feels right because it's really just long form writing from my head. And yeah, I encourage you to read it. But what I want to share with you on this episode is something that I didn't include in the article, but read the article because it's really good. What I want to share with you is how to reclaim our humanity. Because it, to me, in my opinion, where we're at right now, it really feels like we are on a fast track to lose humanity, to lose everything that it means for us to be human beings. And again, it's happening on both sides. And so I want to share 6 steps plus a really big tip to support you in reclaiming our humanity, as a whole. And step 1 is shift the focus on you, shift the focus back on you. I think with everything that's going on, it's become so easy to get wrapped up in the external world and what's happening and the projections and everyone else's triggers. And there's like a sense of FOMO, or like, I'm not doing enough if you don't show up. And I'm telling you, you are doing enough by just showing up and focusing on yourself. Okay. Because if every single person on this planet, if every single leader were to shift the focus back on them and do the fucking work, we would be better. We would be better. Like, we would be a better world. Number 2 is face your shit and stop avoiding it. I've been observing a lot of people on all sides of things avoiding their shit right now, reacting from these triggered states and allowing themselves to do so over and over and over again. And also creating content from triggered states, like creating insulting memes or insulting IG reels. And it's like, but you're doing this from a reactive state, which means that there's something in you that has triggered a trauma and you're avoiding it by just reacting and creating. Doesn't make any sense. So right now you have to take responsibility for your shit and face it. Face your shit. Those wounds that are being triggered within you, that is an invitation for you to work on that. Face it and stop avoiding it. Step 3 is seek to understand yourself. You have to remember that we have undergone a massive trauma as a collective, and we're still in it. So a lot has changed, and you may have changed through this. I know I did. I know I've shared this before, but my beliefs in January 2020 were completely different than my beliefs in the summer of 2020. I shifted so much that I had to seek to understand myself. And the invitation for you is the same. Seek to understand yourself right now as who you be in this moment. So important. Because if you don't understand yourself, then you don't know what you stand for. And if you don't know what you stand for, then all you're doing is you're showing up and adding to the noise. So step 3, seek to understand yourself. Step 4, practice self-compassion and self-love. Now, this sounds super elementary, yet I'm noticing just within my clients and a lot of the people that I serve that there's a lack of self-compassion, that there's almost like the inner critic has gotten louder. We're not allowing ourselves the same grace. And again, it's because we're in this highly triggered reactive environment. So you need to deepen your self-compassion and your self-love and actually make that a practice each and every single day. Observe how you speak to yourself every moment of every day and make those minor shifts to show yourself love, to show yourself compassion. And then step 5, this is when we start to extend outwards, then seek to understand others. So rather than being quick to put other people down because they believe different than you, seek to understand them. Get curious, ask questions, engage in conscious conversations. And I don't mean engage in conversations with everyone, because not everyone is going to be in the same mindset of like, I want to seek to understand you. Devote your energy to where it's going to be reciprocated for sure. But seek to understand others. And then step 6 is extend compassion and love outward. So once you have that self-compassion and self-love, like start to extend it outwards and start to look at people with compassion and look at people with love. And if you can't see someone with compassion or love, then just exit that situation. And again, go back to step one, shift the focus on you. Because if you cannot look at others with compassion and love, then you are in a triggered and reactive state. So it's time to shift the focus back on you. And you just run through that cycle, right? Step one, shift the focus on you. Step two, face your shit, stop avoiding it. Step three, seek to understand yourself. Step four, practice self-compassion and self-love. Step five, seek to understand others. And step six, extend compassion and love outwards. Now, the tip I want to give you with this is to notice in your body when you feel expansion and when you feel constriction. Expansion is like an openness in your body. You will literally feel softer, more at ease, more relaxed and expanded. Whereas constriction is when you start to feel your body going tight, your muscles are tense, your jaw might be clenched. There's just a tight, constricted feeling. When you are feeling expansion, you are in alignment, you are grounded. This is all good. You can engage in conscious conversations. But when you are in a state of constriction, there's no way in hell you're going to be able to respond and not react. Like there's no way in hell you're going to be able to hold a conscious conversation. And we always want to engage with others from a place of expansion and not constriction, because constriction means reactivity. The reason why this tip is so helpful is because it brings you back into your body and you're really just checking in with how your body is feeling. So if your body is feeling constricted, you go to step one of how to reclaim our humanity, and that's shift the focus back on you. Like how can you get yourself back into a state of expansion? So that's really all I want to share with you today. I think it's important to step away from the screen and remember that all the people that you're engaging with online behind your screens are actual fellow human beings. These are your brothers and sisters who are navigating this same earthly journey with you. And you may not agree, but hating on each other, shaming each other, blaming each other, pointing the finger and having and reacting towards each other, this isn't the way that we're going to bring humanity closer. This isn't the way that we're going to regain our humanity. So do the fucking work, and that starts inwards. Make sure you're processing your emotions and not reacting from them. Make sure you're taking time away from your screen to recalibrate. Don't get caught up in the noise and stop contributing to the noise. This is not how we lead. If you enjoyed this episode, please do share it with a friend, share it with your community, your audience. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Potent Truth, where I am taking you on a journey to challenge illusion and lead with sovereignty. Now, if you have yet to grab a copy of my book, Potent Leadership, head to potentleadership.com and grab yours today. You can also grab it on Amazon in all countries. And if you don't like supporting Amazon, guess what? You can walk into your local bookstore and have them order it in for you. Okay, it's that simple. Make sure you download a few episodes of this podcast and drop a rating and review on iTunes. If you've already done that, thank you so much. If you have yet to do so, please just take like 2 minutes out of your day today to drop a rating and review and download a few episodes, because every download, every rating, every review supports me in getting this podcast out to more leaders around the world. As I mentioned, this episode was really a follow-up to a musing that I wrote on Substack. So go check me out on Substack, rubyfremon.substack.com. And then, of course, you can connect with me on social media. My handle is @IamRuby. I love hanging out on IG and Twitter for now. Or if you prefer, you can connect with me on Telegram for the conversations they don't want us to have. That's rubyfremon.com/Telegram. For everyone who's purchased the book already, thank you so much for your support with the book. Just a reminder to please share photos of yourself with the book and be sure to tag me @IamRuby and use the hashtag Potent Leadership for a chance to get featured. And finally, make sure you check back on Monday for a brand new episode of Potent Truth. Aho, leaders.